very reputation conscious. Just when they're in a position to really provide informed comment, they choose not to. That's a really important concern of mine. We depend on them. It's our professional responsibility.
So what did it take for you and Jeff to get to that point where you guys were like, okay, well, this is worth our reputation in the scientific community to actually speak out and be like, yeah, like this, there is a hominid out there.
Yeah, I mean, it was never a concern of mine. I mean, it's like, you know, we scientists love to be involved in an unfolding discovery. I mean, that's...
But something as taboo as Sasquatch is.
Well, I didn't know it was taboo. You know, I still sometimes act as if it isn't.
Right.
And I say, John, why would you even think that people would be, my colleagues would be considering this? You know, anyway, yeah. But I mean, also, and it sounds arrogant, when you know you're right, when you know you will be proven right, when you find the evidence so compelling that you become 99.999% convinced.
Which is about where I am too.
Well, I mean, you know, and this is what's so affirming. You know, I keep hearing accounts. I keep seeing good tracks. Reputation on and I started talking about it sounds arrogant, but when you know you're right, when you have really good tracks, and we're not talking these smudges that people say, oh, I got this track. Yeah, it's an impression. It may or may not be a Sasquatch. Because we have such good stuff, I really don't think we should bring forward that dubious. And then I have to be careful because I'm offending. You know, I'm offending. So what do you mean? That's a clear track. Yeah, but you don't know. Well, maybe you know the level of skepticism of my scientific colleagues. If they're not willing to look at this really good stuff, I'm not going to bring this to their attention because it's like film evidence. You know, if they're dismissing the Patterson-Gimlin film, then we better be careful with what we are trying to bring forward.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let me ask you this: have you ever had a sighting, a Class A sighting?
I don't know what a Class A sighting is. I had a sighting. It wasn't very good. And I don't like to talk about it.
Okay.
It's okay. It was in Kentucky. It was standing in a hedgerow, and it was standing upright. And it was like, that's right, I can't say I didn't see the arm. But we could see the shoulder, and it was moving back and forth.
Swaying.
Oh, it was swaying
I can't do a good representation. It was very obscured. Anyway.
Yeah.
And it was filmed, and it isn't a good film. But my concern is that if someone saw that film and said, oh, if John Bindernagel bases his acceptance of the Sasquatch on a sighting like that, he's really out to lunch. And I would probably agree. I do not base it on that. I base it on... See, I am a wildlife biologist. I do have this rather narrow but important area of expertise about tracks. So tracks are really important.
You're a wildlife biologist.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah. No, it's just. So what made you go from being a wildlife biologist to Sasquatch?
Now that is a good question. I'll try not to go on too long, but I will.
No, it's fine.
We have all night.
Because there I am in third year university, University of Guelph. And I had seen, in the old days, you went into a barber shop and there was Argosy, this is 1965, Argosy, True, Field and Stream, all these outdoor magazines. And here's the William Rowe account as written up by, anyway, wild man seen in eastern British Columbia. And this is the William Rowe account of 1955. Right. So I raised it. I said, well, so I raised it in class, third year university, young, very idealistic. What about this wild man? And I described in a small classmate, yuck, 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 professor, sorry, Bindernagel, we really don't have time for that. We're dealing with moose, elk, and deer, you know,
So it was a joke even then. It was a joke. It was an established joke.
Was it? I don't know. I didn't know it was a joke. This was up to 1965. It was like first I'd heard of a wild man report.
Okay.
Excuse me. So anyway, so I went to see what I could find out about it in the library, and there was nothing. there was Hillary talking about the Yeti, and then John Green's books started coming out. Well, you've got that one.
Oh, it's right here.
I forget the year of that one. That's
73.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And in the late 60s.
Because it was 67. Was it 67's Patterson Gimlin?
67 was
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And John's books came around 60. Anyway, so I started reading up. You know,
Right.
once they were available, I said, oh, there's a lot of evidence for this so-called wild man. You know, I don't think the prof should have brushed it off.
Yeah.
Well, that was the beginning, first of my interest in the Sasquatch. And that's when I should have learned. John, it's like a friend of mine said, this is going to lead to nothing but trouble. You know, I was being tipped off, you know, and it's gone on ever since, you know, this brushing off. We don't have time for that. We really need to deal with moose, deer, elk, you know, that sort of thing.
Got it.
Anyway, so that continued, you know, anyway, so.
So that's how you got from biology.
Oh, sorry.
to
So,
Sasquatch.
okay. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Okay. So, and so I've always had this thing, and this is where it belongs. It belongs in wildlife biology, in zoology, in mammalogy, and in physical anthropology. We're talking about a large mammal, which should be included in mammal field guides, and isn't. And we were just talking about that before you came, because, you know, if you saw a Sasquatch and you came home, you see a bird, you go home and check out your bird book. Okay, the closest thing is an upright bear, and you say, no, it wasn't that. Oh, here it is. This is what it was, you know. And so there's your Sasquatch, and there's its tracks, and if you had seen tracks. But of course, this page
Doesn't exist.
it exists here and only here. This is
Yeah.
a problem in this room, and nowhere. And so this is what we're dealing with. And a sociologist, well, actually, it was my colleague Leela Hadj-Cheek, who wrote the wonderful foreword to this book. She said, John, you need to read Thomas Gilovich. Well, Gilovich is a sociologist. He said, you know, if there's no option for this alternative, people can't choose it, you know, and that's why this is so important. If it's, you know, it's not in mammals of North America, it's not in mammals of BC,
Yeah.
you know, and it's, well, anyway, so that's a very powerful message. It basically says this does not exist because it's not here.
So you,
Anyway.
As a what kind of biologist?
Wildlife, well, as compared to marine.
Okay, so you as a wildlife biologist felt that it was your duty to have that among the other mammals, so it's an option for people to
be considered and depicted and cataloged alongside other mammals. Yeah. I mean,
see.
it sounds self-righteous when you say it's my duty, you know, but it is. I mean,
Sure, yeah.
I benefit. Got my PhD at University of Wisconsin Madison. I mean, I benefited from an education. I think one needs to pay back, and that's why someone said about reputation. It's not a matter of reputation. It's a matter of doing what needs to be done, and I think
it's a responsible thing to do.
being in a position that I'm in, I think it's responsible. Yeah, I mean, ideally, we now wait for historians of science to look back, and you know, there will be this day, the cadaver, the type specimen, and the questions will arise. Why didn't scientists see this coming? Why are they looking surprised? Well, some of their colleagues did try to bring it to their attention.
Yeah.
They
Rub their faces
They
in it.
wouldn't have to be looking surprised.
Yeah.
But thank you.
So okay.
But yeah, anyway, yeah.
Okay, I have a weird and potentially uncomfortable question. It's about the woo.
What?
The woo, the supernatural side of Sasquatch. What do you think? Do you think there's any what am I trying to say? Credence? Do you think there's anything to a supernatural Sasquatch? Or I mean, I've experienced things. I've had sightings, and I've experienced wood knocks near me, and nothing's there. What do you have to say? And I don't necessarily believe in supernatural stuff, but enough has happened to me that I I do start to wonder, what exactly are we dealing with? What are your thoughts on the possibility of a supernatural type thing?
Well, I take the conservative wildlife biologist viewpoint. It's a track-leaving mammal. Oh, and I went into it in the second book. Well, I was calling it supernatural. No, I didn't call it superhuman strength. And I said, no, that sounds too much like supernatural. So I went to beyond human strength. And we have that in apes. It's recorded,
Yes.
3.5 times. Chimpanzees, they can just do stuff, say, per 100 pounds of body weight. They're much, much stronger than we are, like several times, So I think that explains a lot.
So that's as
Some of
far as
that
you're willing to
speed.
go, as
Yeah.
far as supernatural.
Well, yeah, but I don't fault people who bring in the supernatural because, and this is where it sounds like a broken record, because we who are qualified to provide informed comment have chosen to ignore the evidence and refused and basically make ourselves unqualified, unable to provide comment.
Yeah.
We've done, and we've, it's like, what's the word? Recusing. We've recused ourselves.
Yeah.
But hey, it's not our call to recuse ourselves. We're actually, I would say, obliged to be there.
Okay.
So
there's so many, Mike Patterson,
I'll tell
personally.
a story about Mike. Yeah,
I know Mike Patterson. He's a good friend of mine.
Good, Mike.
So there's so many reports outside of Mike, so many reports of mind speak disappearing. What's your personal opinion on any of that?
Well, can I talk about Mike? He's it's not in any of the books. Mike has done a really good job of documenting some tracks in snow. Nice sharp photographs of nice sharp tracks in nice soft snow.
Yeah.
But Mike's interpretations of the Sasquatch are, let's just say, quite different from my own.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, when we've had this correspondence, Mike, I really would like to use that great evidence, which you've given me permission to use, but I feel I can't, because they're going to say, "Whoa, great photograph! Where'd you get it?" And I'm going to give the name, and they're going to go to Mike. They're going to go to your website, and they're going to dismiss the evidence because of your interpretations. Then I say, "Could you possibly tone down?"
And you're referring to the fact that the voices that he's recorded and
I think they're good recordings.
Him talking to
those recordings are great. He sends me the disc. They warrant bioacoustic.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's some good stuff
Oh
there.
yeah, no, they're fascinating. to listen to. Yeah.
But
But not everybody can.
it's more some of his
accept
other
it.
stuff about following him home and all this. And
Coming to his
anyway,
door.
anyway. What the point is? So we have this. Well, we're good friends, but anyway, so I say, and so I say this to Mike, and Mike writes back, said, "John, I understand your need to appease your scientific colleagues."
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa!
He says the same thing to me.
Talk about pushing a button. Am I appeasing my colleagues? If I'm doing that, I better back right off and start. I won't say accusing them, but just.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't want to be seen as enabling them. Anyway, but it's a good line. I needed to hear that line because maybe other people are thinking I'm only. I mean, I've cut them so much. Well, as we all have, we cut them so much slack. Yes, it is an extraordinary claim. It appears to be a far-fetched claim. You think it's not evidence-based, but it is. There's a lot of good evidence,
The existence of Sasquatch, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the thing with and so then Mike's not the only one. I have several collaborators like that, and I think, oh shucks,
Yeah. Okay, so. Okay.
So I haven't answered your question
Go
about.
for it.
No, I don't have an answer about how to treat the paranormal because I work with Aboriginal people. And they have some supernatural interpretations, and that's fine. That's in their culture.
Yeah.
And we need to be careful. And some cultural anthropologists, I'm working on a monograph now, have, you know, they've taken the view, oh yes, Sasquatch is a supernatural being. Now, and then they said, and we may be wrong in taking the view that it's exclusively supernatural. There may be a supernatural component to the Sasquatch, but we may have been too narrow. And that's quite well, I shouldn't say it. It's quite something to hear, a humility on the part of a scientist kind of admitting that we may be wrong. But there's a few of them in cultural anthropology have said, we're sort of revisiting our earlier interpretations of the Sasquatch as merely a metaphor, you know, just a model. It may actually be something real to this. Like,
so here I'm uneducated, you're educated, but here are some of my thoughts. Here are some of my quandaries on the potential, the brain of a Sasquatch. Because their heads are so large, I wonder if their brain cases are significantly bigger than ours, and therefore maybe they have some strange cognitive abilities that supersede what we currently understand in neuroscience. So when people talk about telepathy or them being highly psychic, I wonder if perhaps there may be something to that, just because we don't know exactly what a brain would do if it was bigger than our own. Does that? Am I making sense?
We don't know. We don't know how much of their brain they actually use. That's something too.
I mean, we're learning about, you know, like dolphins, a lot of other mammals. We do underestimate them. There is this, I think it could be called human arrogance. We really like the exclusivity of, you know, the things that we attribute to be exclusively human may not be exclusively human. But Meldrum can answer. He's the physical anthropologist, can answer things. I don't brain size.
Yeah.
I can't comment.
Well, we don't know we don't know what type of abilities something would have if its brain was significantly bigger than ours.
Or if they used all of it.
Well, we use all of our brain. That's a myth that we don't use all of our brain. We do use all of our brain. We don't use all the parts of our brain at the same time, but
that's what I'm saying, though, is like, what if they can't?
Yeah, what if we don't know. So when people talk about mind speak, that's all I'm saying is.
Yeah,
when people talk about the mind
that
speak,
myself.
Yeah, I've never experienced it. You've never experienced it?
No, I have heard, you know, talk about infrasound. Now that interests me because there's a measurable entity, and it's kind of interesting.
And it's a known thing that other animals do.
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.